A house looks solid until someone pulls the permits and checks what the foundation is actually sitting on. This week's 7 verses share one relentless motion: God taking what is hidden, interior, or safely abstract and dragging it into the physical and the named. Sufficiency gets exposed, intention gets tested, loyalty gets a hometown. Watch for the moment in each verse where something interior is forced to become concrete, because that is where self-reliance loses its grip. Zophar described a man who collapses not from scarcity, but from having everything. Job 20:22 says, "In the fullness of his sufficiency he will be in distress. The hand of everyone in misery will come against him." The word is fullness, not half full, not declining, completely full. Zophar saw something real here, even though he aimed it at the wrong man. Sufficiency that replaces dependence on God doesn't protect you, it isolates you. And the people you stepped over to fill that tank, they become the very hands that empty it. Your abundance is only as safe as what it's built on. If your security requires no God, it is already collapsing under its own weight. Property deeds are not usually where you find God keeping his word. Joshua 17:10 says, "Southward the land belongs to Ephraim, and northward to Manasseh, and the sea is its boundary. On the north Asher is reached, and on the east Issachar." Notice the word boundary, not vision, not prophecy, boundary. A surveyed edge where one tribe's land stops and another's begins. Centuries earlier, Jacob crossed his arms over Joseph's 2 sons and spoke a future into them. Here that future has hardened into compass points and property lines. God's faithfulness got so concrete it needed a surveyor. Whatever you are still waiting on, this is what arrival looks like. Not dramatic, just mapped. The promise you are carrying may one day read like a land record, that ordinary, that real. The Greek word for watch here is the same word used for guarding a city gate. Matthew 26:40 says, "And he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, 'So, could you not watch with me 1 hour?'" 1 hour. Not a lifetime of faithfulness. 60 minutes of being present while someone you love suffers. Jesus addresses Peter by name, the same man who swore he would die first. The failure here is not betrayal, it is drift, the slow collapse of sincere intention under ordinary human weight. You know this failure. Not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind, where your attention simply dissolves when someone needed you most. He found them sleeping and still called them forward. That door stays open for you too. Paul said this while being shown the door by his own people. Acts 13:47 says, "For so the Lord has commanded us, saying, I have made you a light for the Gentiles, that you may bring salvation to the ends of the earth." The word is commanded, not suggested, not offered as consolation. This order predates the rejection. Paul does not pivot to the Gentiles as a backup plan. He recognizes the mission was always aimed past the center, toward the edges. Ends of the earth is not ambition, it is assignment. The places that feel like exile may be exactly where the light was directed. You were not sent to the margins as punishment. You were sent there as light. This is not a king's idea, it's his mother's command. Proverbs 31:9 says, "Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the poor and needy." The first verb is not think justly or feel compassion, it is open your mouth. The anatomy matters. Justice begins as a physical act, the unsealing of lips that power prefers to keep shut. And notice, righteous judgment is not defined in the abstract. It is defined by its object, the poor, the needy. If your verdict does not reach the vulnerable, the text does not call it righteousness at all. Silence is not neutrality. In the presence of need, your closed mouth is a ruling. These warriors deserted their own tribe, Saul's tribe, to join a fugitive with nothing. 1 Chronicles 12:3 says, "The chief was Ahiezer, then Joash, both sons of Shema of Gibeah, also Jeziel and Pelet, sons of Asmaveth, Barakah, Jehu of Anathoth." The chronicler records their fathers' names and their hometowns. That detail is not decoration, it's exposure. Ahiezer and Joash are identified as sons of Shema of Gibeah. Gibeah was Saul's capital. These men could be traced, punished, disowned. They showed up anyway, and the text made sure no one could forget who they were. Loyalty you can't put your name on isn't loyalty yet. God does not record anonymous allegiance. He writes down names, including whether yours was among them. Ancient Hebrew courts required you to stand while your record was read aloud. Psalms 133 says, "If you, O Lord, should mark iniquities, O Lord, who could stand?" That word mark, shamar, means to watch closely, the way a scribe tallies every debt. The psalmist isn't asking God to overlook anything. He's saying, go ahead, open the ledger. And then he gives you the verdict before God does. No one stands. Not the pilgrim climbing to Jerusalem, not you. This isn't despair. It's the only honest starting position for someone who actually wants mercy instead of a performance review. You don't need a better record. You need the God who closes the book. There is a posture the human heart defaults to, and it is this: keep it inside. Keep your abundance unexamined, your faithfulness unmapped, your loyalty unsigned, your justice unspoken, your guilt untallied. As long as the thing stays interior, a feeling, a conviction, a vague sense of being basically fine, you remain in control of it. You can adjust it privately. You can narrate it to yourself on your own terms. Every verse this week dismantled that posture from a different angle. And the reason is theological, not just moral. Abstraction is where self-reliance hides. You cannot depend on God in the abstract. Dependence requires a surface, a place where your insufficiency meets something outside yourself. That is why arrival in Scripture does not look like a feeling of peace, but like a surveyed line. That is why failure does not register as a crisis of belief, but as a body asleep when it was asked to stay awake. That is why loyalty is not a disposition, but a name recorded next to a hometown that could get you killed. God is not interested in your interior Christ following. He is after the version that has edges, weight, coordinates, the version that can be checked against reality and found to be either present or absent. This is uncomfortable precisely because it removes the buffer. You cannot quietly manage a faith that has been mapped, named, opened, and tallied. But that discomfort is not punishment. It is the architecture of mercy. Mercy requires an open ledger, not a sealed one. Grace has to land on something specific, or it remains a concept you admire rather than a verdict you receive. Where in your life right now are you keeping something safely abstract that God is asking you to make concrete? A boundary drawn, a mouth opened, a name signed. Next week, 7 new verses arrive, and with them another pattern you will not want to miss. Subscribe now so both the daily verse and the weekly thread reach you without fail. The God who maps, names, and opens the ledger is not building a case against you. He is making sure his mercy has an actual place to land.